Hello everyone, welcome back to Learning Through Thalaivar Way channel. So we are currently looking into the Conquering Economy series. For this lecture particularly, we will be looking into poverty, which not only plays an important role in economy but as well as in our daily life. So before we go into the lecture, kindly do watch the entire lecture, comment your doubts if you have any, and don't forget to subscribe the channel as well. Like, share and subscribe the channel as well. So let's start, or let's get into the lecture. So first, let's start with what is poverty. See, poverty is a complex, multifaceted concept, but at its core, it refers to a state or condition in which an individual or a community lacks the financial resources and essentials for basic standard of living. See, we in general opinion, what we all know is that poverty, in the sense, he no money. So that's what we have in general opinion. But the real poverty is, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond the money factor, like denial of choices, opportunities. So poverty is not only about money, it is also about denial of choices, opportunities, which leads to the violation of human dignity. Now, what are the basic key aspects of poverty? Lack of basic needs. See, when we hear of basic needs, what does come into our mind? Eventually, it will be food, shelter, clothing. See, when these three components are lacking, eventually that brings a key aspect. That's the basic needs which is needed for a human to survive. Along with that, we have healthcare, sanitation, and education. See, let me make it clear. When insufficient quantity or quality of food is given, it leads to hunger and malnutrition. Where lack of safe, adequate, or affordable housing causes the shelter problem. Insufficient or inadequate clothing for protection from natural disasters or climatic conditions, or for the participation in social activities, that is an effect in clothing. Healthcare, like inability to access medical care, which eventually leads to poor health outcomes, and also increases the increased vulnerability to illness and disability. Sanitation, like lack of access to clean water and proper sanitation facilities, contributes to added disease problem. Next one is education. Limited or no access to quality education hinders the skill development and future opportunities. Next one is deprivation in well-being. Lack of voice, insecurity, powerlessness, and vulnerability. See, limited ability to participate in decisions that affect one's life or community. See, that is because of the lack of voice. Your voice is not heard properly. Next one is insecurity, constant fear for the future, living day to day without a stable income or a safety net. Powerlessness. See, it also means exclusion from the society, like being marginalized from society, unable to fully participate in social, economic, and political life. Next one is vulnerability. Increased susceptibility to negative shocks like natural disasters, economic downturns, or health crisis with very limited capacity to cope up with. Next one is multidimensional in nature. See, as I said earlier, poverty is not about money. It's a combination of deprivations across different dimensions. Like health, education, and standard of living. Now, we learnt about what is poverty and what are the key aspects of poverty. Now, let's look into the ways to define poverty. Two ways to define poverty, which is absolute poverty. One of the word is absolute poverty. One of the way is absolute poverty. This refers to a set standard that is consistent over time and between countries. It's about a condition characterized by severe deprivation of basic needs, regardless of overall wealth of the society. See, it's often defined by poverty line, a fixed income or consumption level below which people are considered to be poor. It is primarily focused on survival and meeting the most basic needs and is very much relevant for developing countries. For example, not having enough food to meet the minimum calorific requirements is one part in absolute poverty. Moving on with the relative poverty. This defines poverty in relation to the economic status and living standards of other members of the society. Like people are considered relatively poor if their income or consumption falls below a certain percentage of the median or average income of the society. See, it is usually highlights the inequality and social exclusion within a society, even if the basic survival needs are met. Like, and it's more seen in developed countries. Let's say, for example, being unable to afford a car in the society where most people own one, even if you can afford some public transport. See, and one more example you can take, like in your society, many people own BMW, and you own only some Maruti cars. So you are not able to afford this BMW, but you are able to afford Maruti. So this is the relative poverty. In your society, many people own BMW or luxury cars, but you are not able to own that BMW because of your income level. So that is something you are not able to move. So next, look into the measures of poverty. So in the pre-independence or early post-independence period, early discussion revolved around the minimum calorie intake. However, the official attempts have started from the Dandekar and Rath, which took place in 1971. So it was one of the earliest systematic attempts and recommended a poverty line based on the daily calorie intake of 2250 calories per person and estimated monetary value of this calorie intake. Moving forward to 1979, Alec committee came into place which formally estimated a poverty line based on the nutritional requirements and set the calories for 2400 calories to rural areas and 2100 calories for the urban areas. Lagdawala committee in 1993 recommended state specific poverty lines based on price indices which were relevant to each state. Like I would say, remember this Lagdawala committee in particular because this is something which will help in solving one of the PYQs at the back end of the lecture. So it brings in poverty lines based on price indices relevant to each state. Along with it, it critiqued the previous methods for using a uniform poverty line for all states. Next came the Tendulkar committee in 2009, where it moved away from the calorie intake as the sole criterion and adopted a new poverty line based on the product consumption basket, which included food, education, healthing, clothing, and footwear. Used the Tendulkar poverty that was in 2004-5, it was set for rupees 446.68 in rural areas per month in rural areas and rupees 578.80 per month in urban areas. This was the set line which was set poverty line below which it was considered poor. It resulted because of this assumption, this criteria, it resulted in significantly higher number of people below the poverty line compared to previous estimates. It also recognized the importance of non-food expenditures in determining the poverty. So it was updated on the later part for 2011 and 12, wherein it was determined rupees 816 for rural areas per month and 1000 for the urban areas, below which it was considered as poor. So in the later part, the Rangarajan committee came into existence, that is in 2014. So it critiqued the Tendulkar committee for not adequately addressing the changing consumption patterns for using a uniform poverty line for different states. So it brought a new methodology which was based on calorie, protein and fat requirements, and also used a separate poverty line for rural and urban areas based on different consumption baskets. It also included spending on food, fuel, light, clothing, education, medical expenses and other non-food items as well. So it suggested a higher poverty line compared to Tendulkar committee for 2011 and 12. It said about 972 for in rural areas and 1407 in urban areas. So this resulted a higher estimation of poverty compared to the Tendulkar committee. It also emphasized the need of comprehensive approach beyond the just calorie intake. However, the government of India has not officially adopted the Rangarajan committee recommendation, which makes government is still following the Tendulkar committee and its methodology for official poverty estimation. So now let's look what all cause poverty. So first we'll be looking at the economic factors. Low agricultural productivity and disguised unemployment. A large portion of the Indian workforce, approximately around 43.5%, in May 2025, according to PLFS survey, Periodic Labor Force Survey, remain dependent on agriculture. This sector suffers from low productivity, contributing only 17.7% GDP to India, according to the financial year 23-24. Despite its large workforce, this leads to disguised unemployment, where more people are engaged than efficiently needed, hinders the overall economic output. Next one is under unemployment and underemployment in non-agricultural sectors. Despite growth, industrial and service sectors have not generated enough quality jobs, which here is not enough to absorb the labor force migrating from agriculture. India's overall unemployment rate rose from 5.6 percentage. It rose to 5.6 percentage in May 2025, according to the PLFS survey, with youth unemployment at 15%, that is male unemployment at 15% and female employment at 5.8%. Many jobs are created in the informal sector, which is here again characterized by low wages, lack of social security, which contributes to unemployment as well. Next one is income and wealth inequality. The benefits of economic growth have been unevenly distributed, which leads to a significant gap between rich and poor. See Oxfam 2025 report titled Takers Not Makers highlights that India's richest 1% own more than 40% of the total wealth, while the bottom 50% own a mere 3%. This shows how the income and wealth inequality is still high. A World Bank report from June 2025, which brought in the concept of $3.65 per day for poverty line, showed that while India's poverty line has significantly declined to 28.1% in 2023, a substantial portion still lives below the extreme poverty line. Next one is inflation and price rise. Persistent inflation, particularly in essential commodities, erodes the purchasing power of the poor. They spend larger portion of their income on basic estimates. This dynamic pushes many individuals and families who are just above the poverty line back into financial distress. Next one is inadequate investment in human capital. So this is very, very important, like proper investment in education, healthcare, skill development. See, these limit the ability of the poor to improve their employability and productivity. National Family Health Survey 5 between 2019 and 21 revealed that persistent malnutrition with 35.5% of children under 5 stunted and 19.3 wasted directly impacts the human capital. Improvements in education outcomes, particularly in public schools, are very crucial for the future economic mobility. Now, we did look into the economic factors. Now, what are the social factors? Inadequate education, limited access to skilled jobs, like as per the Periodic Labor Force Survey in 2023, 26.3% of the Indian population remains illiterate, with significant rural-urban disparities and hindering upward mobility. Next one is caste-based discrimination. We have come a long way since independence, and say that caste is not followed and stuff, but still the caste-based discrimination perpetuates exclusion and reduces opportunities. See, it highlights that people from scheduled caste and scheduled tribe are associated with increased multidimensional poverty, which indicates increasing vulnerability as well. High out of pocket healthcare cash. See, it accounts for 62.6 percentage of total health expenditure in India, according to PMC 2023 report, which causes millions of households to fall below the poverty line. Next one is gender inequality. Restricts women's economic participation. In India alone, 53% of women are outside the labor force due to care responsibilities, and female literacy rates stand at 70.3%, significantly lower than the males' education literacy rate, which shows the participation of women is, or the gender inequality still is there. Next one is unequal distribution of assets. Concentrates wealth, limiting opportunities for the poor, shows how the unequal distribution of assets have, like as we did look into the Oxfam report, 1% own 40% of the total wealth, while the bottom 50 own a mere 3%. Now let's look into the regional factors. Low agricultural productivity. See, states like Bihar, Jharkhand, despite being agrarian, have lower yields due to small land holdings, insufficient irrigation, traditional farming methods. See, Bihar's food grain production in 2023 was 18.340 million tons, which is significantly lower than Uttar Pradesh production 57.510 million tons. So it shows the low agricultural productivity. Next one is industrial backwardness. Many states, particularly in central and eastern India, lack sufficient industrial development to create non-farm employment. Like Odisha, for example, despite its abundance in natural resources, has been termed one of the India's most industrially backward states, which contributes to the persisting poverty as well. Vulnerability to natural disasters. Regions prone to flood, be it Bihar, Assam, and droughts in parts of Maharashtra or Rajasthan, face significant economic losses. India has seen over 300 floods since 1950, which has affected over 900 million people, with economic losses from natural disasters doubling since the 1990s. Inadequate infrastructure and connectivity. States with poor roads, electricity, digital connectivity struggle to attract investment and integrate into the national economy. The economic survey of 24 and 25 clearly acknowledges the regional disparities in infrastructure development, which again impacts the economic growth as well. Finally, it comes with climate change, which impacts on agriculture. Erratic monsoons and extreme weather events here disproportionately affect the smallhold farmers. FAO report, that is Food and Agriculture Organization report, according to October 2024, shows that or highlights that poor households globally lose 5% of their income, which is due to heat stress, and 4.4% due to floods, which is a significant factor of India's large agricultural workforce. Now, moving on with that, what are the consequences of poverty in India? Poor health outcomes. See, poor health correlates with higher morbidity and mortality. A NITI Aayog report shows that despite progress, out of pocket health expenditure pushes millions of people into poverty annually, and access to healthcare remains a challenge for the poor. Lower educational attainment. Children from the impoverished families have often limited to quality schooling, leading to literacy rates reduction and higher dropout rates. See, the Ministry of Education's All India Survey on Higher Education 21-22 highlights the regional and social economic disparities in higher education enrollment. Increased child labor. Economic hardships sometimes forces many children into labor to supplement the family income, depriving them of education and normal childhood. Well, exact official real-time figure is hard to capture. Government efforts through laws and schemes always aim to combat the child labor, which is a direct consequence of poverty. Food insecurity and malnutrition. See, poverty here again limits to access to nutritious foods, which leads to widespread malnutrition, particularly among women and children. The Global Hunger Index of 2024 placed India at 111th place out of 125 countries, which indicates serious level of hunger and undernutrition. Next one is vulnerability to crime and exploitation. Poverty can drive individuals to desperate measures, increasing their susceptibility to crime, like and various forms of exploitation. With direct correlations or complex, studies acknowledge that economic deprivations can contribute to social unrest and petty crimes. So it affects the society on the whole and hinders the development. Now let's look into some key poverty alleviation programs. The Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act MGNREGA. See, its objective is to guarantee 100 days of wage employment in a financial year to every rural household whose adult members volunteer for unskilled manual work. So it is a good poverty alleviation scheme. See, approximately till November December 2024, around 196.30 crore person days have been generated. That means that many people or that many hours have been spent in working. Next one is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. See, its objective is to achieve comprehensive financial inclusion by providing universal access to the banking facilities. See, as of Jan 15, 2025, around 54.58 crores of bank account has been opened, or 54.58 PMJ Pradhan Mantri accounts have been opened, which shows that it has reached a lot, and approximately 55.5% of accounts are held by women, and it shows how the women are also working towards the alleviation of poverty. Next one is National Food Security Act of 2013. It's to provide subsidized food grains to approximately two-thirds of the population. Two-thirds of the population. The act covers around 80.60 crore persons. According to 2011 census, the budget for 2005-2026 allocates significant funds for food subsidy, which shows that a lot of people are still in need of these for their poverty alleviation. Next one is Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, a national rural livelihoods mission to reduce poverty by organizing poor households, especially women, into self-help groups SHGs, and enabling them to access self-employment and skilled wage employment as well. This is very important as it not only helps a man to come out of poverty and it brings inclusive growth, as well as it helps women in particular to develop a skill and work towards poverty alleviation, work towards coming out of poverty. Next one is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. It is to provide affordable housing for all eligible urban and rural poor. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and Ministry of Rural Development takes into it. See, at around 3.31 crores house have been constructed in village rural areas, and 81.03 lakhs houses have been constructed in the urban areas. See, this program directly improves the living standards, health and dignity of beneficiaries by providing safe and permanent housing. Okay, we did look about what is poverty, what are the key aspects, what are the what are the causes, what are the consequences, and different key poverty alleviation program. Now, how can the poverty in India be reduced? Let's look into it. Sustained and inclusive economic growth. India's significant reduction in poverty has highlighted the World Bank is largely attributed to the robust economic growth. For growth to be pro-poor, it must be inclusive and create opportunities across all segments of society and regions, like boosting MSMEs, medium scale, micro, small and medium enterprises, and linking our rural and urban areas. Next point is strengthen human capital development. Here it's nothing but investing in education, skill development, healthcare. All they are required to break the intergenerational cycle of poverty. Quality education, skill development programs, such as Pradhan Mantri Kausal Vikas Yojana and bringing in nutrition plans, they are all required for the development on strengthening the human capital. Next one is robust social safety nets and welfare programs. So it provides a strong social security net to protect the vulnerable people from shocks and ensure they get their basic needs. So these all come under the key poverty alleviation programs such as MGNREGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Education, Rural Food Security, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. They are all very much important. Next one is agricultural and rural development. It improves the agricultural productivity and diversify rural household livelihoods to address the significant portion of India's poor residing in rural areas, like bringing in irrigation technologies, irrigation tech, um, supporting programs or value addition, food processing. They all help in agricultural and rural development. Finally, it is good governance and targeted interventions like ensuring transparency, accountability, and efficient delivery of public services and welfare schemes. Like schemes like Digital India, uh, land reforms, proper land reforms, and urban poverty focus, like to develop specific urban social protection framework to address unique challenges faced by urban poor, including housing security and stagnant wages. So let's look into a PYQ which was asked in 2019. In a given year, officially poverty lines are higher in some states than in others because poverty rates vary from state to state, cross price levels vary from state to state, gross state product to product varies from state to state, and quality of public distribution varies from state to state. See here, poverty rates will vary, okay, but the poverty line itself is threshold against the poverty rates are measured. The line is set based on the cost of living, not on the direct consequences of existing poverty line. Official poverty lines here are calculated based on the basket of goods and services which are deemed essential for the minimum standard of living. The cost of this identical basket of goods is not common or uniform across all states. So this can also be an option. Cross state product varies from state to state. Just because the GSDP varies doesn't mean it changes in poverty. It brings changes in poverty. Okay? So this is wrong. Quality of public distribution varies from state to state. The quality of public distribution certainly impacts the well-being of poor, but it does not directly influence the calculation methodology of setting the poverty line itself. So the poverty line is about the cost of basic consumption, not how the consumption is or how goods are distributed. So you might have doubt between option A and option B. So let's look, when we look into back, okay, when we look back in this lecture, we did read about different methods or different committees which are formed for dealing with or trading or working on the poverty, different committees or measures of poverty. In that, as if you remember, I told to remember about Lakdawala committee, which brought in state specific poverty lines, on price indices relevant to each state. So this shows, like here, state specific poverty line, we can have to remember price indices relevant to each state. So from this point we could very well get the answer that price levels vary from state to state is the answer. So this is the answer for this question. So with this we have come to the end of this lecture, guys. So the poverty topic has been done yet. So as I said again, do share with your friends and other co-aspirants as well, let them all benefit. And The notes for the same will be shared in the channel by evening. So keep watching and keep supporting. Thank you.